a team so special that every single member was handpicked from the special unit SEAL Team 6. Every single member was a master at their craft, the elite of the elite. But what was the reason behind the formation of this unit? Well, it's quite simple: to test the security of the United States. But this unit took things so far that people always questioned where the line is between doing a test or a dangerous crime. Richard Marcinko was always larger than life, a character who blurred the lines between hero and villain, leaving behind a complicated legacy. On the surface, he was the celebrated founder of the Navy's famed SEAL Team 6, a charismatic leader who built his reputation on unorthodox methods and a persona tough enough to become a household name. But behind the bravado, Marcinko's life was filled with contradictions, scandal, and controversy, issues that have continued to shadow his legacy even after his passing. Born in 1940 in Lansford, Pennsylvania, Marcinko grew up in poverty amid a coal mining community where generations of men spent their lives laboring underground. The future SEAL commander was never content with that destiny. In his memoir, Rogue Warrior, he wrote bluntly about how his ancestors were bound by poverty and routine, born into mines, living and dying without ever seeing much else. Determined to break this cycle, Marcinko dropped out of high school, a decision initially limiting his military options. Rejected by the Marines for lacking a diploma, he eventually found his way into the Navy at 18, and from there, the rest is history. Marcinko thrived under pressure, quickly demonstrating exceptional abilities in combat operations. Sent to Vietnam in 1967 with SEAL Team 2, his exploits became legendary, earning him 4 Bronze Stars, a Silver Star, and a Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry. He claimed the Viet Cong had placed a bounty on his head, a testament, at least in his own telling, to his ruthless efficiency on the battlefield. "I'm good at war," Marcinko once declared openly, complaining that the rigid system prevented him from doing even more damage to the enemy. His real breakthrough came after Vietnam, during one of the darkest moments for U.S. Special Operations. In 1980, the American military's disastrous attempt to rescue hostages from Iran, Operation Eagle Claw, led to embarrassment, loss of life, and exposed deep flaws in America's counterterrorism capabilities. Marcinko didn't mince words, calling it a humongous goat FK. Determined to avoid future humiliation, military leadership appointed him to establish a new elite anti-terrorist unit, eventually called SEAL Team 6. But the choice of name itself was deliberately misleading. Marcinko chose the designation 6 to fool adversaries into believing multiple elite teams existed, though at the time, only 2 others operated. Deception, misdirection, and psychological warfare became trademarks of Marcinko's leadership style, which extended far beyond combat operations into the culture of the team itself. Under Marcinko's leadership, SEAL Team 6 quickly gained notoriety as a group that embraced his hard-drinking, rule-breaking ethos. Marcinko famously declared drinking was essential to unit cohesion. He called it a tool that tested whether his men had the mental toughness required for elite special operations. If recruits couldn't handle a night out drinking with their commander, they had no place among his select warriors. Not surprisingly, Marcinko's approach raised eyebrows within Navy ranks, prompting criticism from commanders who preferred discipline over rowdiness. He openly admitted that his leadership style made SEAL Team 6 less of a traditional military unit and more like a secretive mafia brotherhood. "We were social misfits," he once said, proudly boasting that he intentionally built a team comfortable with breaking the rules. To Marcinko, the stakes justified extreme measures, but not everyone agreed. Veterans who served alongside Marcinko paint a complicated picture. Investigative journalist Matthew Cole described how Marcinko's autobiography, Rogue Warrior, portrayed an exaggerated image of his exploits. Cole argued that the truth was more nuanced and far less glamorous than Marcinko publicly portrayed. For example, he often turned a blind eye to issues within his ranks, keeping incidents in-house rather than reporting up the chain of command. Marcinko's preference for loyalty over discipline created an environment where men operated with a dangerous level of autonomy. In 1984, after 3 years commanding SEAL Team 6, Marcinko was tasked with a new mission: creating Red Cell, a controversial unit intended to expose vulnerabilities in America's military defenses through mock terrorist attacks. Marcinko enthusiastically embraced the role, perhaps too enthusiastically. His team repeatedly embarrassed senior military commanders by penetrating secure facilities with disturbing ease, highlighting critical weaknesses. But Marcinko's unorthodox methods eventually made powerful enemies within the Navy, who found his approach reckless and overly confrontational. After leaving the Navy in in 1989, Marcinko soon faced legal troubles. He was convicted of defrauding the U.S. government over contracts involving hand grenades, landing him a 21-month prison sentence. Marcinko insisted the charges were trumped-up retaliation for his red cell activities, claiming that senior military officials were so embarrassed by his mock raids that they sought revenge. Admiral James Lyons, who had supported Marcinko's red cell program, dismissed these claims, acknowledging Marcinko's talents but noting his tendency to go too far. Yet, controversy didn't slow Marcinko down. His larger-than-life personality became a brand unto itself, resulting in best-selling books, television appearances, motivational speaking engagements, and even a line of tequila. His first book, Rogue Warrior, became a bestseller, cementing his image in popular culture. Subsequent Rogue Warrior books ventured into increasingly fictionalized storytelling, blending real-life events with sensationalized exploits. Critics argued that Marcinko's later works portrayed him more as a comic book hero than a genuine military figure, but the public largely embraced his exaggerated persona. Marcinko's fame even reached video games with the 2009 release of Rogue Warrior, featuring Mickey Rourke voicing Marcinko himself. The game, however, was widely panned by critics, regarded by some as one of the worst video games ever produced. Regardless, Marcinko continued capitalizing on his public image, becoming a talk radio host, a private security consultant, and a staple figure within military-themed media. Still, Marcinko's lasting legacy is complicated. While SEAL Team 6 today is remembered as the elite special operations force responsible for killing Osama bin Laden, the unit's current professionalism contrasts sharply with Marcinko's original chaotic approach. His detractors point to his reckless disregard for discipline, insisting that his flamboyant methods tarnish the reputation of special operations units. Supporters argue that Marcinko's unconventional leadership created an effective team precisely because it broke rigid military traditions. This ongoing debate about Marcinko's legacy reflects a broader tension within military circles. Does achieving exceptional results justify breaking established rules? Marcinko's career never provided easy answers. The very qualities that made him successful, audacity, boldness, and willingness to defy authority, also brought criticism, scandal, and ultimately legal trouble. Marcinko passed away from a heart attack on Christmas Day in 2021, aged 81. His death prompted a fresh examination of his complex life. Former teammates praised his undeniable courage, innovative spirit, and fearless attitude toward conflict. Critics recalled his troubled relationship with authority, penchant for bending truths, and legal issues. His life story ultimately reveals a man whose greatest strength was also his Achilles heel, a relentless drive to push boundaries, for better or worse. Richard Marcinko embodied extremes: heroism and controversy, brilliance and scandal, loyalty and defiance. Though the public embraced him as the tough-talking warrior of his books, the truth was always far more nuanced. His impact on special operations is undeniable, shaping elite units that continue to influence American military strategy to this day. Yet Marcinko remains an enigma, forever caught between legend and reality, heroism and controversy, leaving future generations to untangle the complexities of his legacy.